Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of JA's Recipe for Success. Yes, I am back in the kitchen here at home, but I know we're going to be back at JA World soon, and we're really excited about that. So today, by the way, I'm Lori Salarulo, if you don't know me, and I am the host of JA's Recipe for Success and the CEO of Junior Achievement of South Florida. One of the reasons that we started the show is not only for our students that we serve so that they can hear the inspiring and motivating stories and journeys of leaders and entrepreneurs in our community and even some outside of our community. And I've learned so much from these guests, and I hope that you have too. And if there's any of the shows that you missed, you certainly can go back to our website, jasouthflorida.org, and check those out. There are some amazing recipes in that cookbook on the website. So I hope you'll check them out. This month is National Financial Literacy Month. And yesterday I was over at JA World and I just standing in Finance Park, which is where we focus every single eighth grader on learning about personal finance, budgets, right? Understanding credit scores and debt and interest rates and childcare, right? When they start to grow up and get married and have children and all of those things. And of course, we talk about the career exploration and the career opportunities as well, but really focusing them on learning these basics and how important they are. And look at what's happening in our world today. So if you are interested in financial literacy, I really encourage you to get involved with an organization like JA and make a difference because we need to prepare our young children. And we're going to talk about that with today's guest. And this is someone that I've had the pleasure to work with over the last couple of years, at least a couple, and gotten to know a little bit. And I will tell you, I love her passion. I love her commitment. And she is just, when she says she's going to do it, she does it. And I just love this about her. And so Jennifer Starkey, who is our guest today, is the Senior Vice President, Vice President at TD Bank, and she serves all of Broward and South Palm Beach and Collier counties. She has over 25 years of banking experience, and we're going to talk a little bit with Jennifer about financial literacy, and we're going to hear about her ingredients to success. So let's bring her in. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, my friend. How are you today?
I am awesome. Awesome. It was so good to see you a week and a half ago. I miss seeing people during this COVID. So it was nice to be able to be out and in a controlled environment outdoors and to get to spend some time with you.
It was such a surprise and such a pleasure. We were both with meeting Steve Noodleberg, one of our favorite sales gurus. Working every day to get 1% better, as he likes to say. And it was such a great surprise and made my day to be able to spend some time outside with you.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad I jumped over there. So I want to jump right in a little bit. It's interesting when this pandemic happened, my first reaction was to say to my daughter, who's 25 and lives in her own apartment, and I said to her, "Do you need help?" And she said, "No, Mom, I got this." And I'm like, "What does that mean?" She said, "No, I've got like 6-7 months rent in the bank. I had been working on my credit score. So my credit score is good and I'm okay. And I'm going to continue to work." And she was going to school and taking some classes at night. And so I said, "Okay, great." And it made me realize that all those years that I was talking to her about how important a credit score was. And I would just stress to her that if you don't have a good credit score, you can't go get a car without mom or dad. You can't go buy a house without mom or dad, right? It can make or break all of the dreams that you might have and make it really challenging. And so I'm curious for you, right? Did you have a chance to learn that when you were younger? And if you did that help? And if you didn't, how do you wish you had?
Right. I mean, I think just like your daughter was lucky to have you as a mom to be able to instill that knowledge. I was a daughter of two bankers. So we started talking about, savings and budget and, earning funds that, if you wanted to buy something, you need to save up for it. And, our parents gave us different chores that we could do to earn those funds to be able to buy that thing we wanted. So for me, it started very early and very young. Even when I was ready to buy my first car, my father said, I will lend you the money, but he also created a coupon book with an interest rate, and I paid him back every month. And it really made me feel very proud to be able to go to work and pay my father back. It really was one of my first experiences about learning about how to borrow money, how to budget for something, and really saving for something that you want. But I also was a student of junior achievement in Central Jersey. When I was a teenager, we worked with a local organization that brought in junior high students, and we created our own little business. So that was also a great learning experience for me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love when I hear that people are alumni and that they understand the program. And so now I understand why you're so supportive of JA. And we appreciate that. So it's such a shame. I mentioned briefly what's happening in our world today and how many people were not prepared. And the statistics are staggering, right, of what's happening. What are you seeing, from the banking industry? What are you seeing, with your customers, and how do you think people are doing?
Sure. People are doing better now that, a year has passed. If we look back a year ago, there was so much uncertainty. No one had a pandemic playbook, and no one knew how big was the impact going to be, how long would it last, and people were, their contingency plans. Some of them, they didn't have contingency plans, and others thought, well, my contingency plans aren't good enough and won't, we don't know how it's going to go. So there was so much uncertainty. But not only did the government step up with programs to help support businesses and keep people employed, banks participated in the PPP program, helping to get those funds into the hands of business owners so that they could pay their employees and keep food on the table and roofs over the head of their employees.
Yeah.
So people are doing better now, but there certainly was a tremendous amount of uncertainty, and people really struggled tremendously over the past year.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, who expected this to go on so long? So even if you had a contingency plan, right? My dad always said you have to have 6 months rent in the bank, right? That would not have been enough today without the help, right? That people are getting. So I'm sure that your team, because I know from experience of working with your team, they do an amazing job supporting your customers. And so thank you for that. And we really appreciate it. And we'll talk, I'm sure that customer service is going to be somewhere in the ingredients there. But I want to talk a little bit about Jennifer, because this is really about, for our students and for those watching, hearing the ingredients and some of the things that made you successful. So my first question, of course, is how did you end up in banking? Was it because your parents were bankers, or, and you kind of thought that was the only thing there was?
Yeah, for me, if you had asked me, do you want to be a banker? I would have said no. My parents were bankers. They had great careers. I really wanted to be a teacher. And I went to school for psychology, and I went to graduate school. I was working on my master's in education, but I was working at the bank to help pay for graduate school. And during that time period, they were going to hire 10 people, and they were working moms who were coming back into the workforce. And they said, Jen, you want to be a teacher. Would you like to teach these new employees how to work at the bank? And I said, oh my gosh, I would love that. So that was like a light bulb moment for me, where I found out, you know what, I could be a teacher in any role, working in any industry. I really enjoyed my time working at the bank. And the executives called me in and said, you know what, your working moms are doing more work than our full-timers. Would you consider coming to work for the bank full time? And I said, well, you know, I am going to grad school to be a teacher. And they said, well, what do you think you're going to make, you know, when you're a teacher? And of course, this is going back, you know, almost 30 years ago. And I said, well, you know what, when I get my degree, I'm going to make $24,000 a year as a teacher. And they said, we will start paying you that tomorrow if you come join our team. And so it was one of those, you know what, I slept on it. And I said, you know what, I'm going to try this and I'm going to see if I like it. And if I don't, I can always go back and finish my graduate degree and become a teacher. But you know what, Lori, it was really the best decision I ever made, because in every single role that I've had throughout my 30-year career, I've had an opportunity to teach. So it's just been such a pleasure to be a banker. And you know, we say we want to enrich the lives of our customers, colleagues, and communities. And I've really been able to follow my personal passions while working at TD Bank.
Wow, that's, you know, it's so interesting, I think, and that's why we truly believe that, you know, giving young people the opportunity to go into jobs, right, after they go through some of our high school JA programs, really, I mean, if nothing else, it'll teach them what they don't like, but it might also spark something where they don't even realize that there's opportunities right anywhere to do what they love, and they find their skill set. And your skill set was teaching, and I'm sure inspiring and motivating at the same time others, right? And so, and you're still doing that, even though that might not be your primary role. And so how did you actually transition then from teaching bankers to be bankers to actually being a banker?
Sure, right. I think you have to be a lifelong learner, right? So when you step into a role, you may not know everything about that job. And especially women too. We tend to look at job applications and say, oh, I only know 8 out of 10 of these items, I'm not even going to apply. Whereas studies show men will look at that same list and go, oh, I know 8 out of 10, I'm definitely applying.
Right.
And so it's having that confidence that, you know, you're going to have skill gaps in any role you take. But, you know, if you have a supportive mentor, if you have sponsors, if you are working for a good organization that continues to enrich and provide knowledge to their employees and training, then you're just going to learn where you have a gap. And then, you know, strive to have to learn. You know, this journey, both with financial literacy and career, the most successful people are lifelong learners. And so you just got to keep pushing yourself. And whether you're a banker, a nurse, you know, it's the same thing. You are continuing to learn and push yourself farther.
Yeah, it's so funny. People think that because you get to a certain position or you have a certain title that you know all of it and you know all the answers and you know how to do it all. And I'm constantly researching and looking to see how we can do things differently or better, or, you know, I mean, it's constant. So no matter what level you're at. So you talked about finding an organization that supports their people. And you have led teams throughout your entire career, right? I'm sure some small teams, some larger teams. Talk a little bit about you as a leader, right? And what's important, like how, you know, listen, that culture of your team is so important. Talk a little bit about that. How do you get the people to follow you?
Sure. It's not about them following me, right? My role is to help them be successful. And that's going to be different for every person on the team, right? Everybody needs a little something different. Like we were just saying, everybody has different skill gaps. And it might just be offering them up an idea that they haven't tried before. You know, that's where your experience comes into play. But, you know, as a leader, we don't know everything. So it might be, you know what, that's a really good question, or I understand what your challenge is. Let's find someone who could give us a suggestion to help overcome that challenge, right? So it's having that internal network, external network, and resources that you can turn to when there's some uncertainty as to what the next step is. So really it's, my job is to help people be successful. That to me is what a leader is. And it's really listening, being supportive, being available, and really taking every situation on an individual basis, not a one-size-fits-all program.
Yeah, and that probably is so true also, not only with your people, but with your customers as well, right? And I think so often, especially big banks, I came from banking a long time ago, but at the big banks, everything was pretty much the same, right? Every customer walked in the bank. I remember being a customer service rep on the floor, right, of the branch. Every customer came in and it was pretty much, here are the accounts you can open, and it was kind of by rote. Talk a little bit about that, how banking has changed in that way around relationships and working with your customers.
Sure. I really feel the most successful banks are the ones where it is customer centric and relationship based. At TD Bank, it doesn't matter what size business you are. You might be a solo entrepreneur working out of your kitchen, or you might be an organization that earns, $25 billion a year and has thousands of employees. Every business gets a dedicated relationship manager, and they're local. Not every bank takes that approach. Not every company takes that approach. For us, we like when you deal with local people that you do run into in restaurants, in Fort Lauderdale. And it is about building a relationship, building that trust, and really understanding what are your strategic goals, whether you're one of our personal customers or business customers, right? It's about having conversations, understanding what your challenges are, what your strategic goals are, and then maybe it's some of our financial solutions that help you meet those goals, or maybe I can help connect you to other people in our community, whether you're looking for more customers or maybe you're looking for some new vendors, right? So it is that relationship and trust. I feel that that's where the most successful bankers we don't even call ourselves bankers, we call ourselves relationship managers.
Yeah, by the way, I've stolen that model for JA. But we're going to let that simmer for a moment. We're going to take a really quick break because it is Financial Literacy Month to show, I think, a really powerful little video. So we'll be right back.
Please welcome tonight's presentation of What I Want to Do
When I Grow Up.
When I grow up.
I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck.
I don't want to cry when paying the bills.
When I grow up.
I don't want to be turned down for a business loan.
I don't want to borrow a lot for an education.
And then not know what to do with it.
When I grow up, I don't want to be paid less.
Told I'm underqualified.
Or overqualified.
When I grow up.
When I grow up.
I want to know how to save for my future.
Find a job I like.
And start my own business.
When I grow up.
I want to know how to provide for my family.
And invest in my community. And make a difference.
When I grow up.
When I grow up.
When I grow up.
When I grow up. I just want things to be different.
At Junior Achievement, we promote economic empowerment through education, but we can't do it alone.
So I get the goosebumps every time I watch that video.
That's amazing.
Right. And it just really hits home. And at the end, it talks about that Jay can't do it alone. And obviously we can't. It takes so many of our partners, right? Volunteers, we work with over 7,000 volunteers. You guys are part of that number. And I want to talk about that a little bit, not from the Jay perspective, but you are probably one of the most active people in the community that I know. And we just went from talking about relationships, right? Building relationships and being out in the community. You're a member of United Way, the Tocqueville Society, the Moms Club, March of Dimes, American Red Cross, National Association of Women Business Owners, and the list goes on and on. Talk about that commitment to community, not only individually for you, you know, I tell people all the time that the first reason and, most important reason for getting involved in the community is to give back and make a difference, right? And it feels good. But there's also, let's be honest, right? As a leader in this community, there are also benefits to that, right? Building that circle of influence and all of that, that benefit us in business or in whatever we're doing, or whether it's a challenge we have in our family or whatever. Talk a little bit about that. Was, what was it that instilled that sense of community in you?
Sure. For me, it started at home. It started where I saw my mother not only have a job, but she seemed to have what I thought was another job, where she, would come home from work, have dinner, but then, need to go out again to an event or to a meeting. And as I grew older, I realized that she was volunteering in the community, and volunteering to help people that were less fortunate than us. And that kind of commitment was instilled early as a child. But, as I, went from back office operations banking to, kind of front of the house relationship management banking, that is where I learned the power of the people and power of connection. Not only from a business perspective, right? Because rarely are you sitting in a bank and someone walks in and says, I want to borrow $5 million, right? You have to go out into the community and meet people and tell your story about how you can help people. And so there's many ways to do that. But why not do it in a way that you're also following your personal passions? So for me, it was, I really love supporting women business owners. So I joined the National Association of Women Business Owners. I've had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and talk to our representatives about what women business owners need from our government. American Red Cross, our country is, you never know when you're going to have a natural disaster or a fire in a home. So to be able to talk about that organization, I would go to chamber meetings and I would say, not only do I want your business, but I want your blood. And people would laugh, right? People would laugh and come up to me afterwards and say, that was really funny. And it would be that conversation starter, so that we could get to know each other better and find out, how can I help you and how can you help me? And, it feels good to give back to your community and to really, I feel like you have to do that to say you're a part of the community. From a bank perspective, 2020 was a tough year for a lot of organizations. I'm so proud that, TD was able to give $130 million to not-for-profits in our community last year. Talk about our employees. Our employees worldwide, even though we were all working from home, except, our brave frontline people in our stores, we still, as a company, did 80,000 hours of community volunteer service in 2020. I mean, it gives me chills when I think about that commitment to our community. It would have been very easy to just, stay at home, take care of ourselves, right? A lot of people had a lot of things on their plate, but they didn't forget about our community and our not-for-profit partners in the community, because we want all of you to be able to continue your mission. Yes, there's a business side to networking and connecting with people, but when you do it authentically and you're coming from a place where I really do want to help you, I'm passionate about your mission, then it's not even work, right?
Yeah.
And that really is when you're doing what you should be doing, because it doesn't feel like work. You're just following your passions.
Yeah, Steve always says, right, one of the chapters in his book is about give to get.
That's right.
I think that when you are giving for the right reason, to your point, and not giving to get something back, right? That it's like karma. When you do good things, I truly believe that good things will come back to you. And so when you are giving to the community because you're passionate about something and you want to make a difference, right? It just feels great. When I'm done in this lifetime, the legacy will not be how many millions of dollars were raised. Those are not that I, led an organization or whatever it is. That what the legacy will be, right, is, how many families who had children with disabilities, like I did I help, that came after me? How did I make a difference for them, right, by working on boards and bringing down funding or whatever it was? That's the legacy. My family, my children, right, are my legacy, and where I touch this community. So much more important. So I agree with you, and I think in the end it comes back. Hopefully.
It absolutely does. I totally believe what you put out in the universe comes back the same way. And,
Exactly.
You talk about being the CEO of an organization, right? We always say we may be the only in the room or we may be the first in the room, but let's make sure we're not the last, right?
Absolutely.
So we're always working to develop our people and develop our teams so that the mission can continue.
Well, and thank you so much, because I was going down the road of the Women in Leadership group, the L.E.A.D community that you are extremely involved in. I believe you're the co-leader at TD Bank's program. And so, as you said, we recently did Girls Rule. We were chatting about that before the show started. And we had started working with the girls, doing some scholarships at Rosé Soirée, the last couple of years, doing a couple of small little mentor. Remember when we had the girls on the inner circle? But we said, okay, wait, there's a need. There's a desire for this, for the women to give back to the girls and for the girls to take, right, like sponges, right, take what we can give them. And so I said, we got to figure out a way to do this deeper and bigger. And so that's how Girls Rule came about. And, we thought, well, is this the year to launch it or not? It turned out to be a great year to launch it, and was extremely successful. And you just hit the nail on the head. There were women who came before us, right, who trailed the path and led the way for us, and we need to do the same. But you're working, and this was my passion too, like even at Leadership Broward, it's not just about the young girls, but so often we have women who are in the business world and we throw them into managerial positions, right, without really helping them. And so I'm always looking at how do we help our young girls, right, from teenage years, middle school years, all the way up to that middle management. And I think, there's so much out there for C-level leaders, but there's not enough out there for that middle management or those emerging, starting out leaders. Talk about L.E.A.D and what kind of work you're doing around that with women.
Sure. So one of the things we saw in the commercial bank was, we would hire people out of college, men and women. They would go through our credit training program. They would become credit analysts. They were successful. But we tended to then see the women leave the organization. And it really made us pause because we're thinking, all right, they're getting the same training. They're working with the same managers and so what is that missing ingredient that seems that our women credit analysts don't see themselves having a lifelong career with the bank? So, we had to kind of pause and really dig in and have some, very honest conversations and asked questions and we're open to hearing, honest feedback. And, when we looked at the commercial bank, because that was happening, we didn't have a lot of female leaders in the commercial bank. So we thought, what can we do internally on our own? Both the women that work in the commercial bank and our allies, right? Because we need our allies to be a part of it as well in order for it to be successful. So, we had 3 amazing commercial women come together and form this L.E.A.D group. And it was looking at our existing talent and people we thought are really high achievers. And we wanted to give them that extra support. We wanted to talk to them about storytelling, about career building, skill building, about confidence, about how to present yourself, about personal brand, about how to network internally within the organization. And the program has been around now for probably 3 or 4 years, and it has had a tremendous impact. We have so many more women leaders just in this short time frame, and we have so many women who are like, I want to be a part of LEAD. I want, how do I get into this group, right? So, whereas there may have only been a few commercial leaders, now we have many women commercial leaders, and it's giving people, when they see someone, when they see themselves in someone in management, it helps them think, you know what? If Jen Starkey could do it, I could do it too, right? There's no limit, right, to your potential. And so I think, again, I'm not the first, and I won't be the last, right? And part of my passion is supporting the women in the commercial bank and throughout our entire bank, Maine to Florida, to make sure that women do see their potential and that we are here to support them so that they can reach their career aspirations.
So true. I don't know. It sounds like we might have stolen the format for Girls Rule. I didn't know anything about this at the time, but same idea. So imagine if we can begin to instill that confidence, right? And that understanding of how to build your brand from a young age. Imagine the leg up, right, that our young girls will have. Great work. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read back some of the ingredients to your success that we talked about and that came out in our conversation. And then I'm going to ask you for your main ingredient to success. So one of the things you talked about is, getting to know and finding your passion, finding your skills early on. It may not be what you think you want to do, but in the end, you might find out that there's opportunities, right? And so being open was what I heard, right? Being open to the opportunities. Teaching others, that is something that has gone through this entire conversation, right? You talking about mentoring and teaching and inspiring. Be a lifelong learner, so important. And I always say this to the group, I'm a work in progress and I will be till the day I die, right? And so keep on learning, building that confidence, so important, especially for our young people. Having mentors who also mentor you, not just people you're mentoring. Finding, right, things that and ways, you talked about an organization that supports people. And what that says to me is, to remember that the environment that you're going to spend every day in, make sure that the values, right, and the supports and the dedication to the people are there in the organization you choose to work for, and helping others to succeed. Again, that teaching, seeing that teaching thing, using your network, internal and external, to solve problems, right? And to grow programs or whatever it is you're working on. Listening, skill set, sometimes we're not always as good at, right? For most of us. Being available to your team. I love that. And that, obviously the bigger your team gets, the harder that is. But still finding ways for them to know that you're there for them. Building relationships and building trust. Two things very important. Understanding the people's goals, whether it's the people that work for you or on your team or your customers, and understanding what they need so you can help them. The power of connection and the commitment to community. Two big things you talked about. And then authenticity and honesty that you touched on as well. And obviously, what comes out loud and clear is finding your passion, because you're obviously extremely passionate about the work that you do in the community. You're passionate about the work that you do at TD Bank. And so I love that. And we're fortunate to be able to partner with you. We're fortunate to be able to work with you, right? So we have both sides of the spectrum. So on one hand, you have to, right, you service us. And on the other hand, we hope we service you and bring the value to our partnership. But all of those ingredients, it's no wonder, right, that you are a huge success and so well respected. What is the main ingredient, though, to Jennifer Starkey's success?
That I do what I say I'm going to do. So it's, we talked about this a little bit when we met for lunch, right? It's about follow up and follow through. So if I say we're going to do something, then we're going to do it. And if we can't meet a certain deadline, I'm going to let you know ahead of time, hey, we may need an extra day to meet that deadline. But it really is about being accountable for your actions and following through on things that you committed to doing.
I love that. It's true. It's one of my pet peeves, actually, is accountability, right? Take responsibility for your words, for your actions. And when you say you're going to do something, do it. That is absolutely one of the things that drives me crazy when I don't see it. And so I try to do that myself. So I love that one. And I love that you took the time this morning to spend time with us. Can't wait to share this all over social media. Some really great ingredients to success. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for being you. And thank you for all that you do, not only through TD Bank, but in the community.
Well, Lori, right back at you. I not only appreciate, what you do with JA and your mission, I appreciate you and your commitment to individuals with diverse abilities. I appreciate your commitment as a mother and as a CEO and what you do in the community, even outside of JA. We certainly appreciate the business as being a customer of TD Bank, but really I value your friendship above all else. So thank you for that. And I really appreciate this opportunity to have joined you today.
Well, thank you. I mean, it made perfect sense during the month of financial literacy that you all are just so behind that and supporting it, that it made sense. We had to talk about it with you. So thank you so much. Thanks to everyone who's watching or who will watch when this gets posted out there. And let's keep cooking. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.